Sheikh Hamdan sat alone, the palace quiet around him, and for the first time in weeks, tears flowed freely. Not for duty, not for appearances, but for someone whose memory had never left him, someone whose absence carved a hollow in his chest that no wealth, power, or fame could fill. And as he stared out at the desert stretching endlessly under the night sky, he remembered every detail: the soft curve of her smile, the way her laughter lingered like music, the gentle strength in her gaze, and the countless moments they had shared in secret, moments that had shaped him more than anyone else ever could. And though Dubai's lights sparkled miles away, the glow could not reach the dark corners of his heart where sorrow had taken root, a sorrow that only grew stronger with every heartbeat, every whisper of wind, every quiet moment of solitude. He remembered the promises they had never spoken aloud, the dreams that fate had stolen before they could blossom, and the small, tender gestures that had once made life feel weightless now felt like echoes of a world lost forever. And the tears he shed were not just for the past, but for the emptiness that remained in the present, for the love he could not hold, for the closeness that was now impossibly distant. And yet, in that quiet crying, there was also a strange beauty, a recognition that some loves leave marks that do not fade, that some memories are worth the pain they bring, and that even a prince with a heart the world admires cannot escape the raw human need to grieve, to remember, and to honor someone who, even in absence, remains an inseparable part of his soul. The tears did not stop because the memories did not stop, and as Sheikh Hamdan sat alone in the quiet palace, every thought of her returned with the weight of 1,000 untold stories, and he could feel the spaces she once filled, now echoing with absence, a silence so loud it threatened to overwhelm him. And he remembered the first time he realized how deeply he loved her, how effortlessly she had understood him in ways no one else ever could, how her presence could calm storms he carried within, and how even in fleeting moments she had made life feel infinite. And now that those moments were gone, he felt unmoored, as if the ground beneath him had shifted and left him suspended between what was and what could never be again. And every corner of the palace seemed to remind him of her, the garden where they had walked in secret, the balcony where they had shared quiet sunsets, the sound of horses outside that once carried the laughter of shared rides, and in every echo he felt the sharp sting of loss, a longing so pure it both comforted and tormented him. And he knew that no matter how much he tried to occupy his days with responsibilities, poetry, or the admiration of the people of Dubai, there was a part of him that belonged only to her, a part that would always ache, a part that would always hope for a glimpse, a whisper, a return that might never come. And yet, even through this endless grief, he allowed himself to cry, to surrender to the flood of memories, knowing that these tears were proof of a love too real to forget, too deep to be erased by distance, absence, or time. And as the night grew darker and the city outside hummed with life, Sheikh Hamdan remained there, silent, letting the memories carry him through sorrow, through longing, through a love that would never truly leave, a love that even heartbreak could not diminish, because some souls are entwined forever, even if the world insists they must be apart. As Sheikh Hamdan's tears continued to fall, his mind replayed every memory with a vividness that made the pain feel both unbearable and precious, and he remembered her laughter echoing softly through the quiet palace corridors, the way her eyes had held both kindness and mischief, the subtle warmth of her hand when it brushed against his, and the quiet conversations that lasted long into the night when the world outside seemed to disappear. And in those memories he felt the weight of everything lost, every word unsaid, every moment that fate had stolen from them, and he wondered if she remembered him the same way, if she felt the same hollow ache when night fell, if the absence that now defined his days had left a similar mark on her heart. And though he had always been strong in the eyes of Dubai, in private he was broken, for love like theirs leaves wounds that are invisible but deep, wounds that do not fade with time. And as he sat alone by the window, the desert winds carrying faint echoes of their past, he could feel her presence in everything, the soft rustle of palm trees, the quiet lapping of the sea, the distant hum of the city lights, and each sound reminded him that even though she was gone, she remained alive in his heart, in the spaces between his breaths, in the poetry he could no longer write without thinking of her. And in that realization he cried harder, knowing tonight Sheikh Hamdan cried not just for a memory, not just for a love lost, but for the moments that could never be reclaimed, for the dreams that had existed only in whispers and hidden glances, for the unspoken promises that fate had torn from his grasp. And as he sat alone in the palace, the walls around him echoing with silence, he remembered how she had once told him that some connections are meant to change the world quietly, gently, that love can exist in secret and still leave an impact greater than any grand gesture. And he felt the unbearable truth of those words now, because every corner of his life seemed infused with her presence, and yet she was gone, and he realized that no amount of wealth, status, or admiration could replace the warmth of her smile, the softness of her touch, the reassurance that someone had understood him completely without needing to speak. And the ache of that loss was unlike anything he had ever known, an invisible weight pressing on his chest, tightening his heart with every breath. And in the quiet darkness, he remembered the last time he had seen her, the way the light had fallen on her face, the way she had looked at him as if she were saying goodbye without words, the way she had turned away, leaving him with nothing but silence, and the echo of a love that refused to fade. And, as he cried, he felt the paradox of grief and gratitude, because though it hurt unbearably, though the absence left a wound that would never fully heal, he knew that loving her had changed him forever, had opened a part of his heart that no other experience could touch. And even now, as tears ran down his face, as the palace remained still around him, Sheikh Hamdan understood that this pain was proof of something rare, something precious, something eternal, because some loves do not end, they live on in memory, in longing, in the quiet spaces of the soul, and he would carry her with him always, letting the sorrow remind him that he had truly loved, that he had been seen fully, that he had felt life more deeply than he ever could have without her. And though the world would never witness this private heartbreak, though Dubai would continue with its lights and sounds as if nothing had happened, Sheikh Hamdan's heart would forever belong to someone who had touched him so profoundly that even absence could not erase her. And tonight, in the stillness, he allowed himself to cry, to remember, to feel every ache and every beauty of a love that was gone yet immortal within him. After the night of tears, Sheikh Hamdan awoke to the pale light of dawn, the desert stretching endlessly beyond the palace walls, and though the ache in his chest remained, it had softened slightly, as if the act of surrendering to grief had lifted some invisible weight. And he realized that memories, no matter how painful, could coexist with life, with laughter, with moments of peace. And though she was gone, she had left a part of herself embedded in him, in the way he saw the sunrise, in the rhythm of the sea, in the gentle sway of palm trees. And he began to understand that carrying someone in your heart does not always mean despair. Sometimes it means remembering their beauty, their kindness, their laughter, and letting it shape the way you live each day. And as he walked through the palace gardens, feeling the cool morning breeze against his face, he recalled the lessons of love they had shared in silence, the strength they had given each other without words. And he felt a quiet determination rising within him, a soft, unspoken promise to honor her memory, not by clinging to pain, but by